Today we're going to be taking a look at the first Intel Core i5 ever released and find out if it's even a viable option in 2026. And we're also going to find out just how well an RTX 5070 does with an almost 20-year-old CPU. The first Intel Core i5 was the i5-750, which launched in September of 2009, and up until then, Intel's naming was pretty straightforward. You had the Core 2 Duo for dual-core processors, and you had the Core 2 Quad for quad-core processors. And the problem with that was as Intel added more features and more performance tiers, those names really started to become more limiting. So with the launch of the Nehalem architecture, Intel introduced the branding we still recognize today: the Core i3, the Core i5, and the Core i7. The Core i3 was aimed at everyday users, while the Core i7 was built for enthusiasts who wanted every feature Intel had to offer. And the Core i5 landed right in the middle of that. It offered most of the performance people actually needed without the premium price tag, making it the ideal sweet spot for gaming and general use. The first standalone CPU I ever bought was actually an Intel Core i5 6600K that I paired with a GTX 1070, and I still have so much nostalgia for that setup. I even got it overclocked to 4.3 GHz. So now let's get back to the video and take a look at the Intel Core i5 750 that we paired with a RTX 5070. Diving into the RTX 5070, it features 6,144 CUDA cores, 12 gigs of GDDR7 memory, and a massive 672 gig memory bandwidth, and it boosts all the way up to 2.5 GHz. And a little fun fact, when the Core i5 750 launched back in 2009, the fastest graphics card to pair with that was the AMD Radeon HD 5970. Now to pair with our CPU, we have this awesome set of Corsair Vengeance memory running at 1600 MHz, and it has two 8GB sticks of DDR3 memory. Do you guys remember back in the day when RAM looked super dope like this, and it had those tall fins to get the air in and really cool them good? I miss those days. And now for this legendary CPU, we have the i5-750, which comes on a 45nm process node, has 4 cores, 4 threads, a base clock of 2.66 GHz, and a max turbo all the way up to 3.2 GHz. It also features 8 MB of L3 cache and has a TDP of 95 watts. And it runs on the LGA 1156 socket type. So, will the i5-750 hold up in 2026? Or will it be a complete mess? So now let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmarks. And one thing I want to bring up before we get into the benchmarks, I totally forgot to enable the turbo on this CPU, so unfortunately it was only pegged at 2.9 GHz for the entirety of testing. But as you'll see, I doubt that extra 300 MHz would make that big of a difference at the end of the day, but I do apologize for that. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our first benchmark. Just a heads up, I decided to run all these tests at 1440p on some of the highest settings. At lower resolutions, the RTX 5070 would be trying to push hundreds of frames per second, and the first generation Core i5 simply would not be able to keep up. So by increasing the resolution, I thought we'd take some of the load off the CPU. And taking a look at Fatekeeper here, this is probably the best gameplay you're going to see from all of the tests. And clearly, if you take a look up at the top left, there is a CPU bottleneck, as we're sitting around 100% usage, while only 50 to 60% on the GPU. And I'm really surprised to say this, but I could totally play this game with this combo. Is it great? No, but it's not terrible at the same time, compared to a lot of other titles that you'll see. So yeah, Fatekeeper runs on a first-gen Intel Core i5. Next up, we have Cyberpunk 2077 running on ray tracing medium, again at 1440p. We nearly got a 30 FPS average. Unfortunately, we finished this test off with a 25 FPS average, and the frame time is absolutely atrocious, as you can see up at the top left. And the other unfortunate part about this is that this is the benchmark, so in actual gameplay, you're going to probably see more like 20 FPS, which is a totally totally unplayable experience. Though surprisingly, the GPU percentage was quite high on this for some reason, sitting around 60 to 70% most of the time. Now, when I did the Fatekeeper test and a bunch of others, I actually had it at 1080 and 1440p, and in most cases you may have seen a 1 to 2 frame difference at 1080p, so do keep that in mind. Now for the next title, we have Mount & Blade Bannerlord 2, which we're running at 1440p on the highest preset, and we saw a CPU average of 40 FPS and a GPU average of 201. So as you can see, there's an extreme CPU bottleneck in this game, and it is a very stuttery and unplayable experience, which isn't very shocking considering, again, this is a first gen Intel Core i5, and we're playing a very CPU intensive game. If by chance you do own the i5 750 and you want to play a Mount & Blade game, I highly recommend Mount & Blade Warband. It'll play great on the i5 750, but Bannerlord is a no-go. Taking a look at a competitive game, this is the only one we didn't run at 1440p, because who's going to run Counter-Strike in a competitive scenario at 1440p? You're going to want that 4x3 with 1280 by 960, and we saw an average of 59 FPS. But, of course, this was totally unplayable. As you can see on the screen, it was extremely stuttery. It ended up getting a little bit better as we progressed through the match, but the stutters were horrible and they always seemed to be in the middle of a gunfight. We had a very similar experience in Fortnite, except for the graphics wouldn't even load in properly, so I wasn't able to give that a proper test. If you're wanting to play any sort of competitive game at a lower resolution and extremely high frame rate, this is not the CPU for you. Here we have Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced Edition on very high ray tracing preset, and we were looking at an average of 28 FPS. And just like a lot of other games, this one had issues just even loading in the textures properly. And one thing I'd like to point out that I haven't mentioned yet is that this was one of the hardest CPUs to test, not because it was bad, but because when we got into the game, it would take nearly 15 minutes to properly load the game and get into the gameplay in the first place. So maybe it is actually pretty bad. GTA 5 Enhanced Edition was pretty rough to run on this CPU, and I would not recommend it just due to the fact of the horrible stuttering. For our graders, no shocker here, it was a horrible experience. Textures were barely loading in. It was extremely stuttery, of course, as you can see by the frame time. And we had that little red icon on the right middle of your screen, which usually indicates a poor Wi-Fi connection, but I know I have pretty good internet here. And it's just funny to think that it's probably showing up because of how bad my latency is on the frame time. So yeah, Arc Raiders is a totally unplayable experience on the first gen i5. Now, this game's pretty similar to Fatekeeper. We only really had 2 games that it wasn't super horrible to play. We were still seeing about 20 to 30 FPS in here, but the longer I played, the better the FPS got here in BeamNG. And we were running this at the highest preset, again on 1440p. And I'm very happy to say this, but you can play BeamNG at an above 30 FPS experience, which was very shocking, but I love to see it. Though, if you are playing this game in 2026 with the first gen i5, you're probably going to be pairing it with a much lower graphics card. Taking a look at the latest LEGO Batman, it was an absolute slideshow. As you can see, very stuttery, very all over the place, and a not enjoyable experience. We ended up with an average of 21 FPS, driving around all over the place in the town, running over things. That is a pretty poor result. So, to nobody's surprise, the latest LEGO Batman is a complete no-go on this CPU. Next up, we've got Minecraft, which honestly kind of surprised me. This was one of the only games where I didn't have to wait 20 minutes to actually get into the gameplay. We were able to create a world super quick. And after messing around a bit with these settings, we ended up changing it to a 10 render distance and an 8 simulation distance, which we got an average of 145 FPS, which is a great experience and is honestly quite shocking considering this is nearly a 20-year-old CPU. So if you want to play Minecraft on the first gen gen Intel Core i5, you totally can, which I love to see. So that concludes today's testing of the first generation Intel Core i5. And in conclusion, the CPU does not hold up well in 2026, and we can't play a lot of modern titles, and besides the novelty fact of just owning the first Intel Core i5, it's pretty much useless in the price range. You can get a lot better CPUs for the price that I paid for this. If there's anyone out there watching this who is actively using this as their only CPU, you're an absolute legend, and I applaud you for still using this. It's great for basic browsing, YouTube, all of that, but when it comes to modern AAA titles, it is a no-go. You can still play a lot of awesome older titles with it, like I recommended Mountain Blade, Minecraft. There's so many great options that you have, even with a poor processor like this one. It would even look super awesome in a retro build. I might end up doing that someday, but for now, I just wanted to see how well it does with a RTX 5070. And if you like these kind of videos, check out the one in the middle of your screen. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And go ahead and subscribe if you like looking at cheaper tech, weird CPUs, and weird GPUs. I've got tons more videos to come. So thank you.